Okay, I know we keep talking about Victor Wembanyama to start the show, but he keeps doing crazy things. So as the man himself said to Scott Van Pelt last night, screw it. Let's do it again.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to Locked On Spurs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network in the entire world. My name is Matthew Tynan. I'm out of the studio today, but still in your eyeballs and ear holes, and I want to thank you for making us part of your day. On today's show, we're going to get into some Victor Wembanyama MVP comparisons that I think folks will find interesting. On top of that, though, amidst all the fun that everyone's having around here, I have a little bit of a concern that I want to get to as we watch the Spurs approach the postseason. But to start the show today, it feels like every single night that we watch this team, and especially Victor Wembanyama, play basketball, it seems like we get this new list of accomplishments, these new benchmarks, these new comparison points to the greats of the past or franchise records or even NBA records. It's kind of preposterous. I remember, this is now about a week and a half ago, when Victor Wembanyama laid out his case as to why he felt he should be MVP, when he talked about the defense, the offense not necessarily being about scoring points. The three bullet points that he gave us, I was curious to see how he would follow through or what approach he would take, as he told us that by the end of the season he would leave no doubt as to who the MVP was. Turns out the version of Victor Wembanyama that really wants to win the MVP is a hell of a lot of fun to watch. Let's just step back for a second. It is 2 consecutive games of 40 or more points and 15 rebounds. He had 41 points and 16 rebounds against the Bulls on Monday, and 41 points and 18 rebounds in just 29 minutes against the Warriors on Wednesday night. He's the youngest player in NBA history to top 40 points and 15 rebounds in back-to-back games. Not only that, and this is per Jordan Howenstein, he is part of Spurs Media Relations, Spurs PR. He's a great follow on Twitter because he gives out a whole bunch of Spurs-related stats after most games. And like these days, with the way they're hitting milestones, he's definitely someone to follow on Twitter, at Airless Jordan. Victor Wembanyama became the 3rd player in Spurs history to post back-to-back 40-point games. One of those was George Gervin. The other one, I would bet most people wouldn't get. A lot of people might not even know Ron Brewer, but he was the other one. It was also Wemby's 5th consecutive game with at least 15 rebounds. Duncan and Robinson, Tim Duncan and David Robinson, never topped 4 straight. And it feels like we could go on and on about the things that we've never seen before that are unfolding in front of us, because Victor Wembanyama is a player unlike anything that we've ever seen before. It's remarkable to watch someone that we are already growing accustomed to in terms of their possession by possession impact on a game say, you know what? I noticed that the MVP, the guys that I'm competing against in this MVP race, they like to score a lot of points. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luka Doncic. I know for some reason Nikola Jokic is a little bit distant in the conversation despite the wild numbers that he's putting up. But it's been really enjoyable watching Victor Wembanyama say, you know what, I'm going to go score. I'm going to go score now. And by the way, the Spurs not missing a beat when he takes that attitude, that mindset of, I'm going to get my shots. I'm going to put them up. When he's on the floor, they're still killing it. I'm going to bring on show producer Tyler Prince now. You were mentioning something to me before the show that the awards chase, it's all very fun to watch. It's especially fun to watch like this version of Victor Wembanyama. People on the internet might tell you he's stat padding. Screw that, man. It's so dumb. He is playing within the game. He's not forcing anything. He's just he's taking what's being given to him, and he's been incredible. But
yeah. So last night, last night Victor scored 41 points on 14 of 19 in 29 minutes.
Pretty good.
That's pretty good. Yeah, what I was saying kind of as we were, setting up for the show is that honestly, I don't personally really care about individual awards all that much. And here's my thought process on this. Tim Duncan, one of the greatest defensive players in the history of the NBA, never won a Defensive Player of the Year.
So you're still, that is one of the most ridiculous realities in the history of the league. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's not like a justification that people are going to buy in. I'm telling you, that's just going to make them mad.
Look, do we think every year that the guy who should win MVP wins MVP? I don't. Mm-hmm. I think, however, whoever wins the championship deserved to win it because you got to go through every team and get there. I care more about winning. That said, as you mentioned, it's not like the Spurs haven't been winning with Victor Wembanyama on the floor. No,
it's true. Let's look at it like this. The Spurs, and I believe this is since February 1st, San Antonio has won 26 of their last 28 games. 26 of their last 27 when Victor Wembanyama plays. The one game that they played without him during that stretch was, and this is a different conversation entirely, but it was that game that they played against Denver in San Antonio during which they had a huge lead. I think it was I know it was north of 20 points. I think it was like 25 points. And Denver came screaming back in the second half. San Antonio couldn't hold on at the end. But this is a team that is winning basketball, is playing winning basketball. And as Victor Wembanyama told Scott Van Pelt when he did, man, it's so crazy these days watching when the Spurs win and they're playing on national TV all the time because they are must-see television at this point. You see Victor Wembanyama going on SportsCenter, talking with SVP, he's doing all the post-game stuff when it's with NBC or Prime, and this is an atmosphere and a team environment that we're not totally accustomed to, because when they were winning back in the day with the big three and all this, they were a lot more quiet behind the scenes. And a lot of that had to do with the leader, the kind of leader, the kind of person Tim Duncan is. Victor ain't afraid to be out there, so nobody else is afraid. And as Victor said to Scott Van Pelt on SportsCenter, when asked again, for the millionth time, the Spurs have been asked about the fact that they don't have much experience, right? And that's kind of the big, if there is any reason people are going to point to as to why San Antonio can't win the title, that's it. Which, again, another conversation, to be asking the players themselves if they have enough experience, because what are they going to say to that question? But I think Victor put it well. He said, we don't have experience, right? Screw it. We're still going to play 100% and try to win this championship. Screw it. and honestly, that's all you can say at this point. What else are you going to say? We don't have any sort of evidence to go off of whether or not they can win a title. I know there's historic precedent and all that, but we're watching an unprecedented player.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I hate players getting asked questions like that. I don't think players should have to spend as much time contextualizing their greatness in real time. Yeah. These are conversations they can have later.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. But it's part of what we do in the media. And another part of what we do in the media is become a wet blanket when I think that there are some things, even in the midst of all this winning and all this fun, there's some stuff that as the playoffs approach are going to be important to suss out, because things as easy as they look right now, things are about to get a lot more difficult. We're going to talk about that next. Spring is a natural reset point, and if there's one thing that can quietly cost businesses money, it's messy communication. Missed calls, scattered texts, no clear thread of who said what. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Quo, the smarter way to run your business communications. Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2 with over 3,000 reviews, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses. It lets your entire team share one business number, so you never miss a call, text, or opportunity. And the part I love, and look, I struggle with organizations, so I genuinely love all of this stuff. Everything lives in one clear thread: calls, texts, voicemail. The whole team sees the conversation, so nothing falls through the cracks. And the AI summaries save serious time by logging calls and highlighting the next steps automatically. It just makes your business feel more organized and responsive. Make this the season no opportunity slips away, and no customer either. Try Quo free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedonnba. That's QUO.com/lockedonnba. Quote, no missed calls, no missed opportunities. Today is also brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like being at an NBA game. The crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part isn't always so simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast, without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, and that's with you, the fans. Look, I pulled up the Game Time app, picked an upcoming NBA game, and had tickets locked in within minutes. I love the all-in price up front, no surprise fees at checkout. That part, nobody likes the surprise fees at checkout. Also, being able to see the views from your seat before you even buy makes the decision even easier. Zone deals stood out as well. You choose the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save. Great last-minute options, too, with NBA tickets showing up at solid prices. Everything feels quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. All right, welcome back. Just real quick, I want to remind you all of the Everydayer Club. Get your first month of the Everydayer Club for free. When you use the code MARCH, you'll unlock ad-free episodes and entry into our private listener group chat where I'm hanging out daily. Click the link in the show notes or go to lockedonspurs.supercast.com to claim your free month. And Tyler, I'd be remiss if I didn't point out what's on my mind as I've watched a couple of these games. As much as we've praised what Victor Wembanyama is doing, and rightfully, and gotten caught up in it because it is so much fun to watch. It's so much fun to pay attention to this race and compare stats, whether it's like with the guys who are currently in the league or just historically speaking.
Right.
But a little bit under the radar, I feel, amidst all the winning, amidst the 26 wins in 28 games, the fact that they're number 2 in the West, they have the second best record in the whole NBA. They're right on the heels of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Is that ever since Victor Wembanyama returned from the calf strain, which we all remember in the NBA Cup semifinals against the Thunder, sat out the whole first quarter. Spurs were getting their butts kicked. He comes in, saves the day. They win the game. He was incredible, even in a limited role off the bench. Ever since that time, the Spurs have been outscored per 100 possessions when he's been off the court. It's not by much. It's by fewer than 2 points.
Okay.
But whenever Victor Wembanyama has been off the court, and this is going all the way back to like the middle of December, like December 12th, I think, would be the date when he returned from his calf strain. Ever since then, San Antonio is a net negative, has a negative net rating when Victor Wembanyama is off the floor. He is the only player on the team whose off-court splits are negative. And so as we move forward, and we're watching the playoffs, and we're kind of trying to figure out especially as in this stretch of games that they're currently in, they're playing a bunch of teams that they're flatly better than, or they're playing teams who have guys out. For instance, Wednesday night, the Warriors obviously didn't have Stephen Curry, but and they didn't have Kristaps Porzingis either. So it's like whenever you take all this stuff into consideration and you try to get a little bit more granular about where are this team's weaknesses right now, what do they have to work on? And we saw it in the game against the Warriors. In the second quarter, they are up 28-11. Victor goes out. Boom. Warriors make a quick run. Mitch Johnson timeout. It's kind of a tug of war until Victor comes back in. Same thing in the third quarter. So
worth noting, Luke Cornett was out last night.
Sure. So. Absolutely worth noting. Yeah. But to me, this is something that, look, I think there are plenty of questions to ask about. I wouldn't say it's like some major area of concern yet, especially considering the fact that they've just kept winning despite the little snag, and they've kept winning knowing that Victor Wembanyama is there. He's healthy. They don't have to, fortunately, at least at this point, fingers crossed, there's not like an injury situation, all that. I'm not trying to jinx anything. I'm just saying, like, we can talk about Victor Wembanyama off the floor all we want. The fact is they have him. The only thing, it gives me Denver Nikola Jokic vibes of the last few years.
Yeah, that has been Denver's biggest problem, right? Is as soon as Nikola Jokic sits down, it's like I don't know if it's a layup line to the rim, but they just cannot hold a lead once Nikola Jokic sits down.
And it's not just that; it's the offense. I mean, like it's everything. It has been
so much offense runs through him.
Yeah. Anyway,
but the impact that Victor has on offense and defense, I think, like, I don't think it's shocking at all that there's a negative net rating once he leaves the floor. He's that impactful. I think that's honestly probably a big case for why he should be the MVP.
Well, that's the other thing. And we're going to get into some MVP comparison here in a second. You're jumping the gun, Tyler. We have that third segment. We have MVP talk. I want to kind of suss this out because, like, it's not something to be super concerned about at this point. Like, there will be test runs, though, and I'm curious to see how they solve for it if it continues, because since February 1st, since this, like, 26 out of 28 games won, which, by the way, I forgot to mention this earlier, it's the best 28 game stretch in Spurs history. Another Jordan Howenstein stat, by the way.
Crazy.
Like, yeah, it's the best 28 game stretch in franchise history. During the stretch, there's like a 27 point swing in net rating between Victor Wembanyama being on the floor and Victor being off. It's almost 26 points. The Spurs are almost 26 points, almost 26 points better per 100 possessions when he's on the court, and almost 2 points worse when he's off. So it's like right around 27 points per 100 possessions. It's kind of crazy. The one area that I think could change is the rotation schedule. If we do start to see some chinks in the armor, essentially, if we do start to see some laps when Victor is off the court, I wonder if it's going to be, again, the first and third quarters. There's the rotation schedule typically sees Victor Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox exiting the game around the midway point of the first quarter. Same with the third. Obviously, fourth quarters can vary, just depending on the game situation. Fourth quarters can vary, but it's in those minutes. And like I said, this is where you do have to get granular, because playoff games are won in the margins. Unless you think like the first round is going to be a cakewalk, we'll see what happens against the Clippers tonight. We'll see if everyone. I know that they have some guys out. The Clippers do, at least one guy, but we'll get to see, I hope, two teams that are largely close to full strength, because it would be entertaining to see a preview of what could be in the first round. But the first round is not going to be a cakewalk. So there are going to be moments where you have to make sure that you have the right guys on the floor. And where we talk about the inexperienced stuff, right? Like we talk about the lack of experience and like where that might shine through. To me, against teams and players who have been there before, those stretches of game where it's Dylan Harper and Steph Castle running the show together without the aid of De'Aaron Fox. Of course, we know that they have Keldon with them. They typically have Harrison Barnes with them, Luke Cornett, like you brought up earlier. So it's not like they're going to be void of any veteran experience, but it's still going to be their ball. The ball is going to be in their hands for the most part. And I can see those little chunks of time as the areas where against experienced teams, especially if San Antonio sticks with that rotation schedule, that we might see some slips. That's just me being like really trying to dig in and see where we can get some sort of analysis on how the playoffs are going to look, because the Spurs just keep beating the crap out of everybody. So I'm just left with hypotheticals, trying to plan ahead, trying to figure out where we might have some points to look at along the way. But
yeah, and if we face the Clippers in the first round, it's just not those players with experience. Ty Lue is like an all-time great playoff coach, like in terms of making adjustments and doing that kind of stuff.
And it's not just Ty Lue, it's Jeff Van Gundy. It's like they have guys on that bench who can really coach their behinds off and will not make life easy on kids, essentially.
Correct.
Like that's what we're looking at here. All right. You wanted to jump the gun to the MVP conversation. We're going to do that next. Don't worry. We've always got time for Victor Wembanyama MVP conversations. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The tournament is here. One of the best times of the year. Brackets, buzzer beaters, upsets. It's nonstop action from tip to that final cut down. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a way to stay in the action all tournament long. Great for me, my Texas Tech Red Raiders, because their best player got hurt like a couple of weeks before the tournament started. They were out in the second round. They got just dump trucked. Anyway, here's the best part. You get up to $300 back in bonus bets every day for 10 days. That means 10 chances to stay involved throughout the entire tournament. You can mix it up however you want. Game picks, futures, or even same game parlays for bigger potential buyouts. It's perfect for the tournament because every day there's something new, different matchups, new storylines, and more ways to get involved in as the bracket unfolds. So visit FanDuel.com to sign up today. That's FanDuel.com to get in on the action. All right, hello again. Tyler, you wanted to get into some MVP talk. I think you had a question or two, or maybe just an observation.
Yeah. So I wanted to take a look at some former MVPs and just kind of compare Vic's year to those guys.
Yeah, let's do it.
We're going to start with Tim Duncan's 2002 MVP season. In his fifth season, the greatest power forward of all time logged 25.5 points, 12.7 rebounds, and 2.5 blocks.
Mixing in the propaganda already.
Always. Yeah. To Victor's 24.5, 11.4, and 3.1 blocks. Mm-hmm. But Tim Duncan in 2002 averaged 40 minutes a game that season. And Victor's only averaging 29 for the Spurs this season.
Yeah.
So I wanted to take a look at some per 36 minute comparisons to try and give us as good a look at, how they performed.
Right.
So per 36, Tim Duncan, 2002, 22.6, 11.3, 3.3 assists, 0.7 steals, 2.2 blocks.
Right.
Victor Wembanyama, per 36. This season would be 30.5 points, 14.1 rebounds, 3.8 assists, 1.3 steals, and 3.8 blocks. I don't know what you think about comparing per 36 or really even comparing against eras, but you and a few other people I've seen online have argued that because Victor's playing less minutes, his case for MVP is less valid. But as a fan, I'm looking at it like, yeah, he's playing less minutes and he's producing just as much as these guys.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that whenever you hear people, first of all, I think you hit it on the head when we talk about comparing, like making an MVP conversation or comparison between Duncan and Victor Wembanyama is like you hit it on the head when you mention eras. Mm-hmm. Huge difference in pace.
For sure.
So like,
for sure.
It's you're typically going to just see higher numbers, especially with the counting stats, just because of the pace of the game. Like going back to 2002, man, and those final scores were like 79-76, just crazy stuff like that. So it is, it's still, even with the per 36 minutes stuff, it's still difficult to compare. Look, the reason that voters look at minutes played is because they're looking at like raw impact, like total impact on the season. So when you are playing 500 more minutes than the other guy, for example, you're impacting theoretically, the argument is you have a larger impact on the team's performance because you're on the court more. Where Victor is starting to set a precedent that we really haven't seen before, because there hasn't been an MVP who has averaged fewer than 30 minutes in a season. And actually, I did want to get to some Giannis numbers here in a second, because it is he's like the closest comparison when it comes to minutes played. But the reason it is so difficult is because, first of all, no matter what, and I think this is just human tendency, voters do tend to look at historical precedent, right? Like they tend to think like, well, this has never been done before, so am I going to be the first one? Am I going to just ignore history, all this stuff? I just think that's in the back of people's minds. I'm not, this is not me saying I agree with it or support that notion.
Sports journalists are like the Supreme Court. That's what I heard.
Well, I think people do take history into account. So that's one thing. And the other is, like I said, just raw total impact. The thing is, and where the argument comes into play for Victor, is that he is making similar impacts by, like, you can look at advanced metrics, all this stuff that takes minutes into account, and you're seeing Victor Wembanyama right there at the top of the list with Shea, with Luka, with Jokic. In a lot of these different metrics, remember the one that I mentioned, I think it was on last show, EPM, estimated plus minus. Like, I haven't checked it today, but like as of yesterday, Victor had surpassed Shea in that metric. So like, even with the disparity in minutes, in raw overall minutes,
right,
Victor is still having the same sort of impact. It wasn't always that way. That's kind of the other big argument against Victor, is that people are looking at the start of the year. They're looking at, when the Spurs were without him, as we brought up a little while ago. They went 9-3 during that stretch when Victor Wembanyama was out with the calf strain.
Mm-hmm.
So the slow start to the season sort of impacted a lot of the way that people are looking at it from a totality standpoint. But there is no arguing at this point that on a minute-to-minute basis, possession-by-possession basis, Victor is impacting the game in more ways than anybody else in the NBA right now. And so this is just stuff voters are going to have to take into account, whether or not they want to, look at the fact that, okay, it's not 30 minutes, but it's like 29.4 minutes. And the Spurs are out here doing everything they can just to get Victor to 30 minutes. Like they absolutely are, and I don't blame them. Like they're looking at this stuff. Victor's looking at it and saying like, oh, I need to score more. Okay, here's 40 back-to-back nights. The Spurs are looking at it and saying, oh, he's not playing as much. All right, let's get him north of 30, like without stressing him too much or stretching things out too much. So it's one of these where voters are going to really have to decide if they want to get down and dirty with this stuff and say like that despite the minutes disparity, he's having the same sort of impact, if not a greater impact, than everyone else that's on the list at this point. And yeah, that's just kind of all there is to it. You can look at all the raw totals and data that you want, but that's just the case.
Well, and good time to say counting stats and even advanced stats are not everything. But I also want to take a look and compare him to Giannis's 1920 MVP season, because this is the season Giannis won both Defensive Player of the Year and MVP. In that season, he put up, counting stats wise, 29.5 points, 13.6 rebounds, and a block a game. Mm-hmm. But he also recorded 5.6 assists, which is a lot of assists for, the way that Giannis plays.
Giannis is a monster. Was a monster, is a monster. Just
The
crazy.
Monster season. And I also love comparing the season because Victor is averaging 29.2 minutes a game as of last night. In this season, Giannis Antetokounmpo averaged 30.4. So it's a pretty close minutes comparison. So if we look at the per 36 for these two guys.
Which makes the whole, like, he didn't get to 30 minutes thing even more arbitrary because it's like less than a minute difference. It's just you see the 3 instead of the 2. Anyway, go ahead.
So if we look at their per 36, Victor, as we said before, 30.5 points, 14.1 rebounds, 3.8 assists, 1.3 steals, 3.8 blocks. Giannis just had a monster season in 1920. His per 36 would be 34.9, 16.1 rebounds, 6.6 assists, and then 1.1 steals and 1.2 blocks.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean,
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
But
Giannis
look,
had an all-time
like,
great season. But
this is something that right now Victor is doing. Like when we talk about like those kind of numbers, the only reason that he's at 30 and a half and 14.1, 3.8 at this point per 36 is because he kind of had the slow start. Or there are games where he's only, remember, like the games where he's on minutes restrictions and he's coming off the bench and all this stuff. So like, and the way he's turned it on. Go ahead.
In terms of counting stats, I would compare Victor to, like, I think Tim Duncan's a great example because if you don't think Tim Duncan could have gone out there and put 30 a night if he wanted to, he absolutely could have, and he chose to sacrifice his personal greatness for winning. So if you don't think Victor can go out there and score 30 plus a night, you're
I mean, he's showing you. He's showing you right now. He's showing you right now. Like, if you fine. If you want me to score, I can score. And that's again, this is all just going to have to be decided by the voters. And they can, if they get hung up on the fact that he's averaging 29.2 or 29.3 minutes per game or whatever. Like, I don't know, man. I can't. I feel like you got to get your head out of the idea that, like, there's somehow a giant difference between 30 minutes and 29 and a half minutes, because there isn't. I mean, there just isn't. So thank you guys for tuning in today. Thanks for tuning in to Locked On Spurs. We've got more Spurs deep dives coming your way every single day. Make sure you subscribe and follow us wherever you get your podcasts so you get all the latest episodes. You can find me on Twitter at Matthew_Tynan. You can also find me at the Corporate Knowledge newsletter, MatthewTynan.substack.com. Tyler, where can the people find you?
If you care to follow me, I'm on Instagram at Tyler Prince Film. Also, if you're an audio listener, please subscribe to the podcast on whichever app you use and turn on automatic downloads. You'll be helping us out a lot.
Absolutely. Please do that. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built just for you. Get Locked On Spurs ad-free, plus members-only Discord access, and more. Head to lockedonspurs.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA. For Tyler Prince, I'm Matthew Tynan. We'll see you next time.